Chronicle Vaults presents Taiwan, the Forbidden Island that defied the giant, the true story of a resilient nation. In the vast and tumultuous theater of East Asia, an island forged its destiny, emerging as a beacon of democracy and innovation amidst incessant geopolitical winds. This is the story of Taiwan's rise, a narrative intertwined with millennia of Chinese history, periods of colonial domination, and the dramatic flight of a collapsing government. Long before its modern name echoed in the corridors of global power, this island, known as Formosa by Portuguese navigators in the 16th century, a name meaning beautiful island, was a place inhabited by diverse aboriginal tribes, each with their own cultures and languages, living in harmony with the lush, natural environment. Chinese presence on the island, though sporadic for centuries, began to intensify with the migration of settlers from Fujian and Guangdong starting in the 17th century, seeking new lands to cultivate and escape instability on the mainland. They brought with them advanced agricultural methods but also conflicts with the indigenous people. The island was then a wild frontier, a place of opportunities and challenges, a melting pot of cultures and ambitions. This complex tapestry of peoples and influences laid the groundwork for a story of resilience and constant reinvention, a prelude to the nation that would emerge, defying all odds. The island of Taiwan, with its imposing mountains stretching along its spine, fertile valleys, and a coast rich in marine resources, has always been a coveted strategic point. From 1624, the Dutch established a trading post in Tainan, Taiwan's first capital, and one of its oldest cities, seeking to expand their influence in the spice and silk trade. They built forts, such as Fort Zeelandia, and introduced new crops like sugarcane, boosting an economy that already pulsed with the life of Chinese settlers and aboriginal labor. However, the calm of this colonial occupation was brutally interrupted by the arrival of Koxinga, Zheng Chenggong, in 1662. Koxinga, a general loyal to the Ming dynasty, which was collapsing on the mainland under the Manchu advance, saw Taiwan as the last bastion to restore the fallen dynasty. His arrival with a massive fleet and a determined army marked a decisive turning point. He expelled the Dutch after a 9-month siege, establishing the first Han-Chinese government in Taiwan. Koxinga was not just a warrior, he was a visionary who sought to transform Taiwan into a base for Ming restoration, introducing agricultural policies and developing the island's infrastructure. The Koxinga period, though brief, he died soon after expelling the Dutch, consolidated the Chinese presence in Taiwan and planted the seeds of a distinct identity. Taiwan was no longer just a beautiful island or a trading post. It was a refuge, a territory with its own aspirations, shaped by conflicts and migrations. This legacy of self-sufficiency and resistance would be crucial in the centuries to come. The island was preparing for a new chapter, where its autonomy would once again be tested by external powers. After Koxinga's death, the Zheng family continued to rule Taiwan for another 2 decades, maintaining a tenuous independence. However, the Qing Empire, which had finally consolidated its power on the Chinese mainland, viewed Taiwan as a hotbed of resistance and a potential threat to its hegemony. In 1683, Admiral Shi Lang, under the command of the Qing dynasty, launched a decisive naval invasion. The Battle of Penghu was a brutal confrontation that sealed the fate of the Kingdom of Tongning, leading to Taiwan's annexation into the Qing Empire. Under Qing rule, Taiwan was initially treated as a peripheral province, often neglected by the central government. Nevertheless, Chinese migration to the island continued, and the agricultural economy flourished, with rice and tea cultivation becoming pillars. The island became a destination for those seeking new opportunities, but also a place of social tensions and sporadic revolts against the Qing administration. Cities like the vibrant Taipei began to take shape, their temples and markets reflecting the Chinese culture that was deeply rooted on the island. Instability on the mainland and the growing pressure from Western powers on a weakened Qing China, plagued by internal and external conflicts, opened a new door for Taiwan. In 1895, following China's humiliating defeat in the First Sino-Japanese War, the Treaty of Shimonoseki was signed, ceding Taiwan to Japan. This was a seismic shift for the island, which suddenly found itself under a new and powerful colonial force. The transition was not peaceful. The people of Taiwan resisted, briefly declaring the Republic of Formosa, but Japanese military superiority prevailed. The island was about to experience a period of forced modernization, but also a significant loss of cultural and political autonomy. Japanese rule over Taiwan, which lasted from 1895 to 1945, was a complex and ambiguous period in the island's history. On one hand, the Japanese implemented extensive modernization, building robust infrastructure, railways, ports, and irrigation systems that boosted the economy and improved public health. They developed an educational system that promoted the Japanese language and culture, but also largely alphabetized the population. Cities like Kaohsiung, with its strategic port, were transformed into industrial and commercial centers. However, this modernization was accompanied by cultural and political repression. The Taiwanese identity, then deeply linked to Chinese culture, was suppressed. Initial armed resistance was crushed, and the population was subjected to strict control. Loyalty to the Japanese emperor was demanded, and many Taiwanese were forced to serve in the Japanese military during World War II. This era was a cauldron of conflicting identities. Taiwanese people lived under a foreign government that modernized them but deprived them of their cultural heritage. An interesting curiosity from this period is the profound Japanese influence on Taiwan's architecture, especially in government buildings and some commercial areas of Taipei, which still stand out today with their Japanese colonial style, a visual reminder of this complex heritage. Furthermore, the tea culture, already present, was refined and commercialized more efficiently by the Japanese, establishing Taiwan as a producer of high-quality tea, a tradition that endures. The seed of modernity was planted, but at a cost, and the latent tensions beneath the surface promised that the island's future would be anything but calm. The end of World War II in 1945 marked a dramatic and unexpected turning point for Taiwan. With Japan's defeat, the island was formally handed over to the Republic of China, then governed by Chiang Kai-shek's Kuomintang, KMT. The Taiwanese population, who had endured 50 years of Japanese colonial rule, initially welcomed the Chinese troops with hope and euphoria, believing they would finally be reunited with their motherland. The joy, however, was short-lived. The KMT government, already weakened by the long civil war against the communists on the mainland, sent corrupt and inefficient officials to administer Taiwan. Mismanagement, resource exploitation, and political repression quickly replaced hope with disillusionment and resentment. The peak of this tension was the February 28th incident of 1947, 228 incident. The incident began with a trivial conflict between a tobacco seller and government agents in Taipei, quickly escalating into mass protests against KMT corruption and maladministration. The government's response was brutal and indiscriminate. Troops from the mainland were sent to violently suppress the protests, resulting in a massacre that claimed the lives of tens of thousands of Taiwanese and initiated a long period of white terror. This traumatic event cemented a deep distrust of the KMT government and strengthened a nascent sense of distinct Taiwanese identity. The 228 incident was not just a tragedy, it was the catalyst for the idea of a separate Taiwan, a watershed moment that transformed the hope of reunification into a desire for autonomy. The island was now on an irreversible trajectory, away from the mainland, shaping its own destiny. The impending defeat of the Kuomintang to Mao Zedong's communist forces in the Chinese Civil War in 1949 triggered one of the largest migrations in modern history. Chiang Kai-shek and approximately 2 million of his followers, military personnel, politicians, intellectuals, and businessmen, fled to Taiwan, bringing with them the government of the Republic of China, vast gold reserves, and invaluable cultural artifacts from the imperial palace. This massive arrival transformed Taiwan from a peripheral province into a refuge for a government in exile, which still considered itself the legitimate representative of all of China. With the arrival of the KMT, Taiwan was formally declared the provisional seat of the Republic of China. Chiang Kai-shek imposed martial law, which would last for nearly 4 decades under the pretext of preparing the island to retake the mainland. During this period, known as the White Terror, political opposition was severely repressed, and freedom of expression was curtailed. However, the KMT also implemented land reforms that distributed land to farmers, boosting agricultural productivity and creating a more equitable economic base. The Korean War in 1950 was a crucial turning point for Taiwan's survival. With the advent of the Cold War, the United States, previously hesitant to support the KMT, saw Taiwan as a strategic bastion against communism in Asia. American economic and military support was vital for the island's stability and development, allowing Taiwan not only to survive, but also to begin its own economic miracle. The nation that would emerge would defy expectations, transforming from a refuge for a government in exile into an economic powerhouse in its own right. In the decades following its arrival, the Kuomintang, under the leadership of Chiang Kai-shek, and subsequently his son, Chiang Ching-kuo, guided Taiwan through a period of remarkable economic growth, known as the Taiwan Miracle. Driven by an export-oriented development model and strong U.S. support, the island transformed from an agrarian economy into an industrial giant. specializing in electronics, textiles, and later, semiconductors. Companies like Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC, now one of the world's largest chip manufacturers, emerged and became pillars of the global economy. Cities like Hsinchu, Taiwan's Silicon Valley, flourished with technological innovations. Parallel to economic development, Taiwan embarked on a gradual, yet firm, path toward democracy. The turning point was the death of Chiang Kai-shek in 1988, who had initiated political reforms before his passing, including the lifting of martial law in 1987. His successor, Lee Teng-hui, born in Taiwan and the KMT's first non-mainland Chinese president, accelerated the democratization process. Lee led the transition to direct elections, allowing the people of Taiwan to choose their own leaders. In 1996, Taiwan held its first direct presidential election, a historic milestone that solidified its democratic identity and further differentiated it from mainland China. The island, once a refuge for exiles, became a model of democracy in Asia, a testament to its resilience and adaptability. This transition was not without challenges, but the determination of the Taiwanese people to build a free and prosperous society prevailed. The island had overcome its turbulent history, emerging as a vibrant and self-sufficient nation, though still facing the shadow of a powerful neighbor. Taiwan's greatest quality lies in its unyielding resilience and its remarkable capacity for adaptation and innovation. Throughout its history, the island has faced numerous adversities: colonial domination, civil wars, exile, political repression, and constant external threats. However, in every crisis, Taiwan found a way not only to survive, but to thrive. The transformation from a predominantly agricultural island into one of the world's leaders in technology and innovation is a testament to this quality. Another great quality is its commitment to democracy. In a continent where authoritarian regimes still prevail, Taiwan has emerged as a vibrant and full democracy, with free and fair elections, a free press, and a robust civil society. This democratic transition was achieved peacefully, a remarkable feat given its history of martial law and repression. The Taiwanese people have demonstrated a strong attachment to democratic values, defending them in the face of continuous challenges. Furthermore, Taiwan is an example of cultural diversity and the fusion of identities. The island is a melting pot of influences: Aboriginal, Chinese from different regions, Japanese, and, more recently, Western. This mix has resulted in a unique culture that celebrates both its Chinese roots and its distinct Taiwanese identity, with elements from colonial influences. Taiwanese cuisine, for example, is a reflection of this fusion, with dishes that combine Chinese, Japanese, and indigenous flavors. This rich cultural tapestry adds depth and character to the nation. The story of Taiwan's emergence is a saga of survival, reinvention, and the relentless pursuit of self-determination. From its origins as an island inhabited by Aboriginal tribes through periods of Dutch, Chinese, and Japanese domination to the dramatic arrival of the Kuomintang and its subsequent transition to democracy, Taiwan has demonstrated a remarkable ability to shape its own destiny. What began as a refuge for a government in exile has transformed into a prosperous and democratic nation, a beacon of freedom in a complex region. Today, Taiwan is a technological powerhouse, a hub of innovation, and a model of democratic governance. Despite its precarious geopolitical situation, the island lives under the constant shadow of a sovereignty claim by mainland China, which considers Taiwan a rebellious province. However, this threat has not diminished the spirit of the Taiwanese people. On the contrary, it has strengthened their determination to preserve their autonomy and way of life. Taiwan's history is a powerful reminder that human resilience and the pursuit of freedom can overcome the greatest adversities, paving the way for an uncertain but hope-filled future. As the sun sets over the Taiwan Strait, the island continues its journey, navigating turbulent waters with a blend of prudence and audacity. The majestic mountains and bustling streets of Taipei bear witness to the life of a people who built a nation with their own hands. Taiwan's story isn't just a tale of past events. It's a living testament to the strength of a people who, against all odds, forged their own identity and a place in the world. Taiwan's future, with its geopolitical disputes and the mainland's constant gaze, remains one of the greatest challenges of the 21st century. Will the island maintain its autonomy and democratic model? How will it continue to innovate and prosper amidst these pressures? The answers to these questions are still being written, but one thing is certain: Taiwan's resilience is an unbreakable force, echoing for generations to come, and its history serves as a powerful reminder that the pursuit of freedom and self-determination is the brightest flame in the darkness.
Subscribe to the Vault of Chronicles channel. Stories you've never heard, every day here.